none of this matters if our perception to the non-hunting public is Bambi killing, bloodthirsty. Why would you shoot it with a bow and arrow? We need to vocalise. We need to celebrate what a great lifestyle it is, not be
Yeah.
ashamed of it. I'm 51. I've still never got a decent stag with a bow. It's not for lack of trying. And I know the numbers have exploded and all that sort of stuff, but there's still hard animals to hunt. And I still haven't done it. So that's my bucket list now. I'm quite scientific now when it comes to shooting and coaching. I'm breaking it down into, whereas when I grew up, it was swing, draw, anchor, arrows.
Alrighty, bow hunters, welcome back. Sitting here online, I've got Mr. Ben Maher with me. Ben, your name has come up many times over the podcast.
I'm sorry.
Been running it for 6 years now, or just about. So five and a bit years, coming up to 6 years.
Yeah.
And it's come up many times. You've popped up a lot, and then also I've just seen your stuff throughout the Bow Hunt Down Under magazines I used to get when I was very first getting into it. And then one of the guys that I hunt with quite often is Adam Barter, and he talks a lot about the place that you go to in New Zealand because he's actually booked it.
I
Yeah.
know Adam. Yeah.
Yeah, he says you
I
guys
kept
have
trying to drag him there.
conversations.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he's booked it for next year.
Yep.
Maybe the following year, and he's trying to get me to come along with him.
You should
but
go.
I should go. It was just that
Yep.
it's tying right onto the end of like a Japan trip that we're doing as a family for a month long. So I'm just trying to figure out how we can make it work.
Yeah, I mean that's just a priorities thing.
Yeah, exactly.
You've just got them wrong.
Don't tell
Yeah,
my wife.
yeah, yeah. No. Because Adam had asked me. I get a lot of people ask me about some of the places I hunt and stuff, and Adam asked me a few times, and I was like, yeah, absolutely. That's the place to go, particularly if you want to, if you sort of want to maximize your time so much. It's good because there's just lots of game.
Yep.
The hunting's hard, but there's lots of game. And it's New Zealand. It looks like Lord of the Rings. It's fantastic.
Yeah, exactly.
And you got turkeys, goats, pigs, fallow, reds. Yeah, it's great. It's great fun.
Yeah. I mean, definitely we'll get into the New Zealand stuff in a bit, but like, when did the trad life choose you? When did you start getting to trad bow hunting and I mean, pick up the trad bow in general?
Excuse my cough. I reckon my dad was a pharmacist, and he had a pharmacy that would close at 12 o'clock on Saturday afternoon, and he was always going bush hunting. And if he wasn't, he'd have the weekend with me. And I can't remember the whys and wherefores, but it was one. This is a long time ago. I'm pretty old, so you'll have to.
You're pushing 35, aren't you?
Yeah, you'll have to forgive me on the details, but it was a Saturday afternoon, and so there's no VHS or DVDs back then. But I watched Errol Flynn's Robin Hood sitting on Dad's lap on a cold, wintry Melbourne Saturday afternoon, and I think I was 6. And the hook was in. That was it. Yeah. And then, so from there, I'd been sort of going bush with Dad, and he'd sort of been showing me things. And then, I had a 22, but then Dad bought me a bow I lived just around the corner from the bow hut in Melbourne, which is no longer there. And then I just sort of grew up doing it. And I was very fortunate in that I had a dad who had no intention of doing anything to do with archery. But he completely fostered my addiction to it. Do you know what I mean? Like he'd take me to tournaments, and then we'd go hunting, and then I could bring my little 40-pound recurve, and Dad was hunting sambar, but I'd hunt foxes, and and then it just grew and grew, and then I had recurves, and I always wanted a longbow, but you just didn't really see them that often back then. And then I got a couple of compounds, and I shot those, and I shot a lot of game with those early compounds, and a couple of early, what would now be considered, I think one of them was a wing from memory, and there was a couple of Hoyt Pro Hunter recurves. And so we used to go quite often on the weekends up to around Balranald.
Okay.
And back then, for those older people in the audience, you'll remember that if there was pigs and goats, you were pretty much welcomed. You were welcomed on.
Yeah. Wow.
And oh yeah, and it was and there was just so many of them back then.
Mm-hmm.
So when people talk numbers, um, it's very different because back then it was nothing to shoot 15, 16 pigs a weekend.
Yeah. Wow.
Do you know what I mean? And then
Yep.
you'd get in the car and it's a 5.5 hour drive home to Melbourne, and you go and do the same thing the next weekend.
Uh-huh.
So by default, you kind of worked out what worked and what didn't
Mm,
really, really quickly.
definitely.
But
Yep.
it certainly wasn't hard hunting at all.
Mm-hmm.
It was, it wasn't deer hunting. It was you'd see them, you'd approach them, and you'd get into them, and then hopefully you didn't bend too many arrows because you'd pull them out, and then you'd put your new 3 blade thunderhead on, which was that was the duck's nuts back then.
Yeah.
125 grain thunderhead, and then you'd keep going. So yeah, we did a lot of that, and then I also sambar hunted a lot as a kid with a rifle, and then with a compound. I'm 51. I've still never got a decent stag with a bow.
Yeah. Wow.
It's not for lack of trying. And I know the numbers have exploded and all that sort of stuff, but there's still hard animals to hunt, and I still
Mm-hmm.
haven't done it. So that's kind of my bucket list now.
Yep. Are you seeing lots?
They're everywhere.
Mm.
They're everywhere. So are the fallow. We've got fallow in like the strangest places down here now.
Mm-hmm.
Places that traditionally had no deer are now chock full of like 2 different species. Having said that, I've been doing a lot of my free time has been with the coaching clinics the last couple of years,
Mm-hmm.
and hunting in New Zealand and then hunting up the Cape. So, excuse me. From now on, it's certainly a lot cheaper hunting sambar because
Mm.
it's an hour and a half up the road. But I think next year I'll be doing a lot of that.
Yeah.
I did get a tree stand once, and then I don't know. Some people will know this story, but I'll tell you anyway. So I bought this tree stand, and I don't love heights.
Uh-huh.
So anyway, I pulled up on the side of the road in this pine plantation, and next to the car is this pine tree. So I set the tree stand up 12 inches off the ground. So I got in it and I held my bow and I had a couple of judos and I thought, I'll have a couple of shots. And I put the safety harness on,
Yeah.
and I'm 2 feet from my car. And as I'm doing it, this bunch of mountain bikers rides past. And the last guy turned around, he came back and he was really nice about it. But he goes, mate, I don't know much about hunting, but I think you're going to have to go back a bit further off the road. And I was like, yeah, hadn't thought of that. No worries, thanks. And he sort of rode off. And I put it in the car, and I gave it to someone else. But I know a couple of guys who've got some. One fella I know, he's got he with his saddle, the saddle stands.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, he shot it with his recurve, and he shot a massive sambar stag. I mean, this thing's 31 inches, I think, which is massive. I've never seen 31 inches in the wild. And yeah, so he's done really well. But yeah, so that'll probably be. I might do a couple of New Zealand trips, but that'll probably be next year. Might do a couple of trips out west.
Yeah.
Yeah, don't know. There's a few sort of lingering invites that I look at, and that'd be good. But, yeah, it just all starts getting hideously expensive.
A wise man once told me it's all about your priorities, mate, and you got to get them straight.
Well, this is it. And to be fair, I'm in some ways I'm fortunate because I don't have kids.
Yeah.
So do you know what I mean? So I pretty much live as I please.
Yeah.
So, and obviously when I'm old and there's no one to look after me, I'll be relishing all the trips that I was able to go on and you guys weren't. Yeah. No.
I also look forward to being an old man in the hills though. Like, yeah.
I'm sort of there now. Do you know what I mean? Like, as soon as you're over 50, you're kind of there now. But back to your question, and then excuse me, and then sort of I don't know. I finished school and I kept hunting. I was doing a lot of hunting on my own because aside from my dad, I didn't know anyone who hunted. So there was a lot of trial by error on my own. But I still had some access to some of Dad's properties, and then of course, in being Victoria, got all that Samba country. So yeah, and then I'd always been, even when I played with wheels, I always my love was trad bows,
Mm-hmm.
and then I was quite passionate about them, and then I just fell in love with longbows. I fell in love with Howard Hill and John Schultz and those guys, and then I emulated their shooting styles very much, and that was really effective for a long time. We put a lot of animals down, and then Jason Edwards and myself. This is when I was living at the farm in Dalesford. We'd shoot every night, and we were using the whole swing draw thing with 60-pound hill bows, cedar arrows, and yeah, we're at this point where we just didn't miss. It was. We used to take these trips to Texas and to Cobar, and we just clean up. We didn't think anything of it.
Mm.
And then, rightly or wrongly, then I started getting some target panic issues.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so I was still in love with the trad bow. I bought a compound. That kind of bored me. And then I thought, well, I'm going to do something about it. And so that's when I got, in 2010, I think it was, we got Rod Jenkins out to run some clinics. So that was an eye-opener because, I mean, he thought we were hillbillies, and he's from Alabama. So, yeah, he told us all about Alabama when he said, our skeeters are that big they can butt fuck a turkey without standing on tippy toe. And then after he worked out what he said, 2 weeks later, yeah, it was funny though because then he was here for he lived with me for like a month, and then he I don't know, you may have to edit that out.
No, I love it. It's in.
After about a month, it was close to going home, and he's like, Ben, and then I just love imitating his voice. Lovely guy, Rod, and he didn't know what one word meant, and I was like, oh. And the word was garn, and I was like, garn. I don't even know. No one says garn. He's like, y'all say it all the time. I was like, how do you spell it? Garn. And I was like,
Down
right,
over here.
Hey, garn.
Yeah,
Garn shop.
gotcha. Go on here.
Yeah. It was, but yeah, so then we saw this sort of, for the first time, we saw this level of, here's how you can fix stuff with your shooting.
Based on
so,
what Rod Jenkins was telling you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so it didn't land with everyone, and none of these things will always land with everyone.
Mm-hmm.
But it certainly landed with some of the guys, and I was like, oh, okay, this is pretty powerful stuff. And then we kept shooting, and then I was hunting a lot more, and then somehow there was people talking about target panic on an archery forum, and then there was this young upstart on there going, I think I've solved it, and everyone was telling him he's full of shit. And I was like, I think I get what he's saying, and of course that was Joel Turner.
Mm-hmm.
So we sort of became friends, internet friends, years ago, and then and then I was saying, I've cured one version of target panic. Now I've got another. And he said, no, you've just got target panic. And he went through all this. And then anyway, so then...
Can you break that down, what you meant, though?
Absolutely. So what I used to do, which some of it was poundage and some of it's the way you acquire the target in your visuals. But so with the swing draw, I reference the spot I want to hit, and then my arm's coming up, and that last 8 inches is a straight back. And as soon as I hit anchor, it's gone.
Mm-hmm.
That's the swing draw, and that worked. And I feel really bad because I taught dozens and dozens of people how to shoot that way. And for some people, it's still working. But what I did notice was, so that target panic manifested as I would get to. So my anchor my anchor back then was this finger in the corner of my mouth.
Yep.
And it'd go. And then my draw just started getting shorter.
Yes.
And I was getting to here, and I was letting go. So I cured all that. and then which I still get now. I get locked off target, so I'll lock in,
Mm-hmm.
and then my arrow point will sit a little bit low on the target.
Yeah.
So if I'm hunting, it doesn't bother me.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah. It's when there's people standing around. I went and shot a 3D a couple of years ago, and I was shooting with Brad Murphy,
Mm-hmm.
and I hadn't shot, just because of the target panic, I hadn't shot competition in years. And then I thought, okay, the best way to beat it is to get back into it. So Brad said, yep, come with me. And he was great fun to shoot with, but he was merciless. And like, I didn't drop an arrow. I was gold. And then a couple more tournaments, I noticed that arrow was hanging below the target.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was getting quite locked off. So there's a few different things that I've done to, I mean, ideally I want to shoot a triggerless shot.
Yeah.
That's my goal. That's the purist in me.
Mm-hmm.
But if I put one of Tom Clum's grip triggers on there,
Yeah.
or a clicker, it all goes away, not a problem. And then if I'm hunting, I just pick my spot and shoot.
Why do you think the trigger makes it go away, or the clicker? Because it's essentially that is your full extension, that's your full draw, and so
No,
that
because it
gives you something different to focus on.
absolutely,
Mm.
yeah. So it's a bit of which is weird because like I run a big company and I do public speaking all the time, and I can still get up and play guitar and sing in front of hundreds of people. It doesn't bother me.
Yeah.
But if there's 3 or 4 people and I'm shooting, I'll get quite nervous.
Hmm.
I'll notice my heart rate increase. Whereas when I'm hunting, my focus is very different. I just pick a spot and I shoot it.
Yeah.
It doesn't bother me. If I'm hunting and there's 2 people standing behind me, different story.
Hmm.
But and I'm a big advocate of getting past it because I know how frustrating it can be for people hunting and/or tournament shooting. I love archery. I want more people doing it.
Yeah.
And if I can get past it, and I'm worst case scenario, everyone can. So I'll vacillate in between, periods. I'll always have it, but I'll get back to periods where I'm competitive in front of people, and I'm shooting a controlled shot, and then not. Yeah, but those triggers or whatever, it externalizes your shot somewhat.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it's not that. So I'm not going, oh, I'm going to miss, or oh, my arrow shouldn't be there. It's just literally I get back, I pick up my spot, and then so as I start pulling, just like you would with a release,
Yeah.
as I start pulling, that's all I'm doing. I'm just worried about I've aimed, and I'm just worried about pulling until I get that sensory thing of a clicker or a grip trigger. It's really a grip trigger for me.
Mm-hmm.
I dislike clickers intensely, but just because of the aesthetics. That's all.
Mm.
They're wonderful tools.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was interesting because I went away with my friend Neil. We went up the Cape a month ago,
Mm-hmm.
and Neil sort of day in day out is probably the best shot I've seen,
Yeah. Wow.
hands down. Like he's broken a couple of national records. I think he's just hardwired ballistically, rifles, handguns, bows.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's quite frustrating because he sort of started this journey a couple of years ago
Yeah.
and did a lot of it with phone calls with me. And then he outshoots me so bad. But it was just really
You didn't
interesting.
mislead him enough.
Oh, and it was just interesting spending a lot of time with someone who's in really good control of their shot.
Mm.
Yeah, I sort of took hope from that. I got a bit frustrated, but I took hope from it.
Mm-hmm.
But it was great fun hunting with him as well because, yeah, in some ways I think he and I are related. And he's a big man. Do you know what I mean? And he's a loud man, but
Mm-hmm.
he is a feral cat in the bush. He is quiet as a mouse. You can barely see him. And yeah, no, it was an interesting trip because I haven't been to. Well, actually, I hunted up in Cape York years and years ago, and it was related to with a job I was doing. And they said, yeah, you can go and hunt. And so my experience of Cape York was actually very, very different from when I got there this time. And I was like, okay, I think last time I was pretty much just on someone's farm.
Yeah.
This
Okay.
was, yeah, this was different.
Meaning proper wild this time compared to.
Very much so, yeah. And like it was wild last time, but then like
Mm.
this time I was like, oh, okay, this is different. And yeah, so we went with the intention of scrub balls,
Mm-hmm.
and so both of us took. He's a lefty as well, and we took 3 bows each, and so we had different setups. So I had sort of 18 arrows for each bow, and I think he ended up taking 70 arrows, and I think I took 50. You know, it was just, yeah. When you looked around camp, there was that much gear lying around.
What was the thought behind the 3 different bow arrow setups?
Well, it's a bit different for me because I always have. So whenever I go hunting, I take 2 bows.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously not
Is
when I'm
that in
hunting, but
case one doesn't snap, or in, like
yep,
what's yeah?
yep. Just the idea of landing in New Zealand and my gear
Mm,
doesn't turn up. So yeah, it's just how my brain operates.
mm-hmm.
So I was running 2 widows which run the same arrows, and then
Yeah.
I had another bow which is soon becoming my favourite bow, I think. Um, so I sort of had 2 different setups, but 3 bows. But Neil had 3 different bows.
But was it
Which,
was it something to do with speed and weights or anything like that, or not really? Didn't that wasn't
no,
considerations,
we
just
just wanted
bows?
to. No, we just wanted to go and play with all our bows.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
Makes more
yeah.
sense.
I'd love to be more scientific going here. There was a definite reason. No, we were just, and so one of them, and this is actually why I generally don't like the man, because one of them was he took a bow, which is very similar to the one of the bows I'm shooting at the moment, and he made some arrows up the day and a half before it,
Mm-hmm.
and then we were shooting it, and he was just lights out. So yeah, so my tolerance for him is wearing thin. Yeah, but yeah. So I'm actually that may be one of the things so I actually went with Mick Baker, with Trophy Bow Hunts Australia.
Mm-hmm.
So like I've done a little bit of, I hesitate to say guiding, but taking people around.
Yep.
Um, but I loathe the idea of someone standing next to me telling me what to do. But Mick was really good. I actually thoroughly enjoyed it, way more than I thought I did. Even
Mm-hmm.
the heat didn't bother me that much. It was great fun sneaking in on a bull. So I was, somewhat concerned about my poundage, but as it turned out, it's better to be lucky than good. So that worked out okay. Um, I quite like one. So because I bought the horns home. I quite like them. I'm quite proud of them.
Definitely, man.
Yeah,
Yeah. I mean,
yeah.
scrub ball's actually very high on my list. It's one that I haven't gone after yet. Um, but yeah,
It was
I very like to have that exact same thing. Just bring the horns home and the little skull cap that they do.
yeah. So it was funny because um, Neil and Mick would go looking for scrub balls, and I'd go and walk down those gully systems for hours, and I'd get 15 meters away from all those scrub balls,
Hmm.
and then when I actually went after them, yeah, they're a bit like crows. Do you know what I mean? So
Yeah,
as soon as they knew you were there with bad intentions,
you're gone. Yeah.
yeah, they were. I was amazed how toey they were. I was amazed how good their eyes and ears are. But one of my friends, actually, the guy who runs Doc Clary, Steve Doherty, he
Hmm.
says the cattle beast has got as good a ears nose as any animal going.
Yeah. Wow.
So yeah, it's so that's where Adam's going off with
Yes.
Doc. Yeah,
Yeah. He's
yeah,
very excited for that.
yeah. I highly recommend that. I have such an addiction to hunting turkeys, and I know they're not. It's not the same as hunting turkeys in America. Um, but they're such great fun to hunt, and they're so good to eat.
How are they not the same? Meaning that because they're not as wild, they're not as skittish, essentially.
Well, I mean, until I got the Americans over there, I was like, "Oh, there's not that much of a difference." And they were like, "Yeah, no. If you tried this with the turkeys in America, they'd be in the next state."
Yeah. Wow.
So
Yeah.
yeah. So that, so they stole my thunder a bit, but but yeah, no, they're just great fun to hunt. They're very visual. They're vocal, um, and they taste really, really good.
Mm,
I love eating game meat. I love eating goat. I love eating turkey. I love venison.
yeah.
I love wild pig actually,
No, I'm the same.
but I'm just wary of it in Australia a lot.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, the pigs around home. So there's more and more pigs, in the state forest in Victoria. I think it's just guys letting them go. To be honest, but they catch them and let them go. But yeah, I ate one of them a year ago, and that was good eating.
Mm,
I didn't shoot it, but it was good eating. I've been trying to shoot them, but they are way too smart for me. Hmm.
mm,
And then there was one I was chasing. I was chasing it for ages. I was doing little stories on Instagram, like week by week.
yeah.
And then a guy I don't know him that well, but he sent me some message. He goes, "Sorry, man, I think I just shot your pig." And absolutely, he shot my pig. But I was like, oh,
Oh
yeah,
no.
yeah. So tell me about your trad life. How did
Mate, so I picked up a trad bow when I very first started getting into archery. I went and bought
Yep,
myself a trad bow
yep,
from the little local gun shop, and
yep.
um, yeah, I just became obsessed with it, shooting in my yard every single day, and
Absolutely. Yep,
got just very good at snap shooting essentially,
yep,
and
yep,
um, went out for my first hunt and shot a rabbit, and
yep,
then went chasing pigs and shot at a pig and
yep,
completely missed it and completely just watched this arrow like pretty much like drop.
yep,
I'm like, wow, if I'm gonna be ethical with a bow and
yep,
get the kills that I want to get so I can start actually taking meat and doing the things,
yep,
then I'm probably going to need a heavier bow. So that's when I kind of jumped to the wheels
yep.
with the intention of always coming back. And I've always been very vocal about that,
Okay.
about wanting to get back to the trad bow and wanting to shoot a red stag, which I've got access to up here in Queensland, shoot a red stag
Yep.
with the trad bow.
Lovely. Yep.
Yeah, and so as a 5-year gift, all of the people who have been on the podcast ever, they actually put together and bought me a trad bow. They bought me a stalker stick bow, a longbow.
Oh wow.
Yeah, incredible, man. Absolutely incredible. So I took it out for a hunt with Benny Fenson in
Yep.
camp while I was there. We went out and we shot some pigs, which was really fun.
Yep.
And then this weekend just gone was the first time I actually kind of also got to take it out. So chasing
Okay.
some goats, and yeah, I did talk about it on the last podcast I did. We did a little recap, and essentially I shot over a goat, I shot next to a goat, and then I shot a goat but just a little far forward, and it wasn't great. So I had
Okay.
to as like an ethical
Yep.
choice for me, I ran up and grabbed the gun and ran back and shot it, just because it
Okay.
was out in the middle of a big field. So I was like, you know what's it's the easiest and best thing to do in this moment. So there's not
Absolutely.
a
Yep.
goat running around with an arrow hanging out of it. I mean, really, unfortunately, we're in the stages right now where bow hunting is it's on a risk, it's on thin ice, right? Essentially, and that something
Uh,
like that doesn't do us any favors. So in my head, that's all I could think about. I'm like, what have I just done?
we're
So yeah.
we're yeah we're one current affair story away from being banned.
Yeah.
Um, I,
And usually it's not the bow hunters that are doing those stories either.
I know, but sometimes we do ourselves no favors
hmm
whatsoever. And I'm not saying that to be a killjoy. I'm saying that because I love the sport. Do you
No,
know what
yeah,
I mean? Like,
exactly.
and I hesitate to call it a sport. To
Me
me,
too.
it's genuinely a lifestyle. I mean,
Mhm.
I've built my life around shooting longbows.
Yeah.
Chasing animals with them. Going to hopefully next year, and this is nerdy. So hopefully next year I'm going to shoot some um, roving clout rounds in England.
So what?
So
Roving clout rounds.
yeah, so it's basically warbow practice they used to do back in the Dark Ages.
Yeah,
In the
yeah.
14th century. So you go out to these estates in England,
hmm
and they still, they'll shoot longbows, and you shoot anywhere from 70 to 300 meters, and it's like playing
Wow.
golf.
No way.
Yeah, that's how nerdy I am. That's how much I love things.
That's incredible.
I mean, if you look on there, I've just got books and books and books on all sorts of anything to do with archery. I love it.
Uh-huh.
I don't care what sort of bow you shoot. As long as you're having fun, as long as you're making the sport better,
Mm.
you know. happy days. So, tell me about your stick bow. Tell me about your stalker. What do you get?
Hey,
What? Did,
it's the is it the Jackal? I'm pretty
oh,
sure.
you did get. Yeah, okay, lovely. Yeah,
Yeah. I hope I'm not doing the team a disservice there. I'm pretty certain it is, but yeah,
yep,
it's absolutely incredible, absolutely beautiful.
yep,
I always think of trad bows as like a real form of artwork. The
yeah.
way that they put the inlays and the way that they put the time and effort into the bow, it always just amazes me.
It's that. It's one of those things, and you know, I still have compounds just sitting here. Um, but it's the what the I suppose part of the trad life, as much as I hate to say it, but it's kind of cool.
Yeah, yeah.
It's the way you can personalize it. Like
Hmm.
I'm super nerdy. All my bows are named. Do you know what I
Hmm.
mean? And then you start getting into, do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah. Making and crafting your own arrows and everything. Yeah. Are they woods? Are they?
yep,
Yeah.
yep. I've gone, and I have more. Ask Jack Spinks. Like I have an obscene amount of arrows,
Uh-huh.
um, but I keep going back to woods. Not because they're better. They're not. Um, I shoot alloys because it reminds me of when I was a kid, and
Yeah.
they're super straight. I shoot woods because I just love shooting them.
Yeah.
Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Excuse me. There's more efficient ways to do it, but I just like doing it. And it's that connection.
It's therapeutic also doing stuff like that, right? The tinkering, the creating
Yep,
arrows, the doing that side of things. It's an extra part of the process of I honestly, and I've always said it, that archery is very meditative. And that's just like the next step of the
absolutely.
meditation.
Yeah, and it's removing the for me, and I think all of this is a spectrum, and
Mm,
I think I can be on this spectrum in different places at any given time, and it's always subject to change. So I
hmm.
say this with no judgment, but I'm always trying to kill the noise,
Mm,
and I think a lot of that noise comes from gear
hmm.
these days.
Yeah.
And I'm as guilty as anyone because something new's come out, I've gone and bought it,
Yeah.
and it's more noise around the process, whereas the process is being a better bushman, woodsmanship, getting closer,
Hmm.
shooting well, knowing what to do after the shot. you know, um, I'm the worst culprit. I haven't done a good backpack hunt in 3 years, but
You've got some bloody
rather
good
than
backpacks.
I've got some ripper backpacks, right? I could have been making better arrows. I could have been like doing weights. I could have been going for walks with weighted backpacks on. No, but
Hmm.
I've spent 3 months buying backpacks.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is nuts. And so for me, the wood arrows, and the process, maybe it's longbows. Um, yeah, some of it's about just killing the noise around what we do,
Hmm.
which I say that with no judgment because sometimes I love it. If I'm having a bad day at work, I'll spend 3 hours at home on the internet enjoying noise. Do you know
Yeah,
what I
yeah,
mean?
exactly. Good time passer. It was interesting. It was on the weekend actually when we went out hunting. So we took a brand new guy out. Like I literally had given him the
Yep,
bow the week before.
yep,
We took him out hunting and we got him his first three goats. But we had Adam there with me, so he was taking his recurve bow out, and
yep,
then Jordan, which I put on my old wheels, and
yep,
Jordan was just asking Adam about it. And something that Adam said is like, I just love the simplicity of it. Like, there's
yep,
nothing but me and the bow, and that's
yep.
the stuffer. It's me, or like, it's not the bow, it's going to be me. So it's just about figuring out what the tweak that I need to make is so I can be a better the next time round. And then, funnily enough, I bumped my sight and my sight moved. Like my sight came loose, bumped it, completely moved off target. And
Yeah.
Adam goes, and that's my point. That's the exact reason why I love the simplicity of a recurve bow because it's you bump it, it's not gonna fall apart like that. Like it's sorry, not that it fell apart, but yeah, it's not gonna ruin it as such. Versus, uh,
So I
yeah,
think that leads very much into, and I think so. My dad was a great conspiracy theorist.
yeah,
So I grew up waiting for the Russians or someone to turn up every 5 minutes. So you always had to be ready.
yeah,
And um, one is none, two is one.
Mm-hmm.
And so the idea of going away with a compound, I always had to have two compounds.
Yeah. Okay.
So that if something went wrong,
Yeah.
and and I've only ever had really one major catastrophe, and this is a lot of years shooting. One major catastrophe, which was completely my fault, which is when I put a broadhead through a cable
Oh,
back in the
yeah.
day, and that was when they had the old teardrop cables. I don't know if
Mm-hmm.
you're young enough to remember, but aside from that, I've never really had anything go wrong. But which is why I have two bows.
Yeah.
So when I go on a trip, particularly if I'm getting on a plane, I have two bags. So,
Mm-hmm.
and I'll probably have matching gear. I'll have 18 arrows and a bow and a knife. 18 arrows, bow, knife. You don't.
Yeah, it's a costly
It's insane.
experience.
It's insane.
Yeah.
So yeah, and I think that's where a lot of that trad love comes from. I mean, I'm just as happy now stump shooting.
Mm-hmm.
Like me and the boys go out. We put some judos and some stumps on. That's an amazing day out.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And yeah, it's not hunting, but it's still uh, yeah, it's not far off it. And
Mm.
then I also really like shooting long distance. I love shooting 200 yards.
Yeah.
Yeah, but so I think that sort of leads into the older I get, the more I will hunt and the less I'll drop the string.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think going back to that, like I've spent so many weekends walking without ever taking a shot. And
Oh God, yeah,
it,
absolutely.
it's not disheartening, but at the same time, I would love it if I could just shoot my bow at the stump and it'd be okay. Like I would blow up my arrows, or I'd get my broadhead stuck
Yeah,
in the if I did
yeah,
that.
yeah,
So
yeah,
it just you can't do that with the wheels, and I do like that little aspect of
yeah.
okay, how far is that tough to grass? All right, let's all have a shot.
Absolutely. That's how
Yeah,
when I die and go to heaven, I think that's what I'll be allowed to do.
yeah.
Now, having said that, because I'm slightly full of it, given that I've spent a lot of time living with, or him living with me, with Tom Clum and with
Mm-hmm.
Joel, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm quite scientific now when it comes to shooting and coaching.
Mm-hmm.
I'm breaking it down into, whereas when I grew up, it was swing, draw, anchor, arrows gone.
Yeah.
Whereas now it's quite the process. And I mean, technically, excuse me,
Yeah.
alignment wise and stuff. Now I'm gold, but yeah, so it's just that aiming issue,
Mm.
which can rear its head. But yeah, so I'm quite technical now
Mm-hmm.
in that. Yeah, there's a lot to my shooting process, and there's a lot that that when I'm coaching that I'll go through with people,
Yeah.
getting them into a process. But that process will end up giving them a shot that will be very reliable, very easy on their bodies.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and particularly now, as people can genuinely shoot less poundage hunting. I mean, growing up, everyone I knew shot 70 pounds.
Yeah.
Um, I didn't really know anyone. I didn't know heaps of people who were shooting it, but at the clubs and stuff, the old guys who shot really well, they were shooting 70, 60, 70 pounds. And I don't know whether when they were shooting well or they were just okay.
Yeah.
Whereas
Yeah.
now, a 50-pound bow is a very, very efficient thing.
Very lethal.
You
Yeah.
know, so and so those mechanics and stuff that I've just learned off Tom and Joel and a bunch of other people. Those mechanics and those way we get our bodies into alignment.
Mm.
50 pounds isn't a stretch anymore at all for anyone,
Yeah.
and it's going to become a really good holding weight. And if you get a
Mm.
good holding weight at 50 pounds, aside from water buff, there's nothing in Australia you won't put an arrow through.
Mm.
Yeah, it's taken me a long time to come to that. Because I
Yeah.
was always like, no, you need 65, and that's experience. Excuse me. That's experience of other people, um, like I know and trust that have gone out and done it.
Done that. Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
which is very much a part of, which is probably my next rant, because lots of people will. I mean, and I don't mind at all. I love it, but daily I'll get someone ask me for advice who I don't know,
Yeah.
and then they'll have formed so many of these ideas of stuff they've got online, of Facebook and all that sort of. And then most of the time, I can tell you where this information is coming from. And it's generally from a lot of people who haven't shot a lot of animals. I mean, if you turn around and said, 9 grains per pound out of a trad bow, I mean, to a lot of people that's heresy, because they're all, no, I need 400 grains up front. And I'd urge people to go and spend an afternoon with Jack Spinks or Ash Brown.
Yep. Boys can shoot.
Yeah,
put down a lot of critters.
Yeah, do you know what I mean? And they'll tell you completely differently. I mean, talk to Neil Chandler for an hour, and the way he just works out getting his flight and the way he puts animals on the ground. Not that I'm suggesting anyone go and ring those people. Don't.
No.
But yeah, so people should be very, very wary of where their where their information comes from, because there's a lot of people around who've done a lot. They put a lot of game down, and most of those people are actually pretty free with their information, and they're always happy to help.
Yeah.
So yeah, just be wary, because I do spend a lot of time, and I think I'm right. I'm not saying I am. I don't want to be that arrogant, but I would suggest I'm on a lot of the stuff, sort of fixing a lot of people's shooting woes.
Yeah.
Just because of stuff that's been told on the internet. And I was like, yeah, no, that's not quite how it works.
No.
And the other thing is, like, find a coach.
Mm-hmm.
Go and find a good coach who you're resonating with, whether compound or, getting coaching it certainly opened up my eyes.
Very transformative.
Yeah, very much so. And it was I just remember when I went to America, I'd spent 3 days. Sorry, excuse me, I just got a cough really loud. Excuse me.
You're right.
I'd spent 3 days with all of the who's who of the trad world.
Mm-hmm.
And I was a bit down on, I wasn't quite getting what they were saying. Yeah, I thought, I've come a long way. I don't get it. And then, anyway, so fast forward 2 days, I'm sitting in the shop with Tom, and then Tom just did this tiny little thing, which was actually, he got me to put pressure on the bow and pull the string a little bit before I draw. And what it did is it set my bow shoulder, so my shoulder wasn't creeping.
Yeah.
Changed the game. Everything everyone else had said, I went, oh, that's what you meant. Until then, I was like, because I didn't realize what I was doing. I was like, my arm kept coming further. But that's
activating the trap instead of the lats, right?
Yeah, and that's when it was really apparent that the power of a coach. It's not, and it's not to completely and utterly, it's those little 1%ers. So
definitely, yeah,
you get 3 or 4 1%ers down. That's
makes a big difference. Yeah, I think the biggest thing is as well as getting a coach, but being willing to actually accept the advice that's coming through as well.
We should write that down and put it on T-shirts.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely. Yeah. I remember we had was at the Rod Jenkins clinic, and we had one of the guys, and he was like, because Rod shoots 3 under, as most people do now.
Yeah.
But like growing up, I didn't know anyone who shot 3 under.
No.
And this old fellow goes, well, 3 under's not trad. And I went, oh. And I was probably not far behind him. I was a bit, it's all a bit aiming, isn't it? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. And it was just really funny that, so Rod pulls out this picture, and it's of Saxton Pope. You know Saxton Pope?
Yeah.
And it's him in like 1912 shooting 3 under. And I was like, I thought I had my my little trad coat on. I was well, 300's a bit newfangled, isn't it? But it was just interesting. This guy paid all this money, and he had no intention of listening to him.
Yeah.
From the moment he started talking, I was like, wow. And when I was doing that, I don't know, I was probably like 35, and I was probably at that point in my life where I'd started to pick up on those things. And you sort of started to notice, because getting coached is hard.
Yeah, you have to be
Yeah.
willing to learn. Yeah, you have to be willing to confront the fact that you're wrong as well.
Right. Well, there's no need to go that far. It's a bit harsh. Yeah. No. Absolutely. No.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And no one gets it wrong more than me. Like I've got a master's degree in it. But yeah. So, but I have another thing. I'm not buying any more bows for a year.
When was the start date? When's the end date?
So well, I got one, so I made it the 1st of September. I made it the 1st of September.
Yeah.
So yeah, and then I'm going to sell a few. And the
Uh-huh.
great thing about being left-handed selling custom longbows is how much money you lose. Um,
I was going to say, at
yeah,
least they might stay in circulation too, right?
yeah. So that's a bit my thing in that I went. I've got that many bows. I've got that many arrows. I just got to like get out, do some samba hunting. Excuse me, like because yeah, I've got a lot of bows. I've
Have you
given away.
played with making your own?
I did once. I was actually looking at it. Funny you mentioned that. I was reading a book the other day, and I went, I could probably make a hill style. I
Mm.
think I tried making a self bow once,
Yep.
and to be fair, it wasn't as hard as I thought because I can't remember the name of the book I got, and it was just red elm, and he
Mm.
basically just made a square one,
Yep.
and I probably got 30 shots through it, but those 30 shots were like I was super happy with it. It was quite wide, and it was
Mm.
as long as I was. And then, yeah, I don't know if I'd get one to hunt with, but I quite like making them. But I wouldn't mind making a hill style bow, just because, to be honest, from the little I know, because they're straight, they just look easier to make.
Yeah. Yeah, I just
You
saw
know.
Lyndon Davies literally just before we hopped on this podcast. He's just put up a post about the Osage orange one that he's just made himself.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
Pretty
Yeah.
cool as a concept.
Yeah. So, and I think I've still got some because I had a shop years ago.
Mm.
I had like a trad shop. So I reckon I've still got bits of fiberglass and stuff around because I
Yeah,
bought.
wow.
Uh, I'll have to ask him, but I'm pretty sure because there was Whiting's warehouse. I'm pretty sure that was Dave Whiting.
All right.
So yeah, but they were in Townsville, and so when they closed down, I bought all their stock. So I've got like shims of fiberglass and stuff for bow makers, and yeah, I got that much stuff lying around. It's terrible. And then I keep buying it. I go,
Yeah.
there's some more wood arrows cheap. Just,
It's an addiction, it is. But I honestly think after this weekend in particular, like bow hunting is life changing. It really is. And I really saw a very fast transformation in the 1 week that I took Jordan the bow. I took him my old bow the Friday. The next Friday we
absolutely.
were out hunting, and literally it's like probably the fastest transition I've seen ever. But taking him hunting, shooting a goat, watching him butcher the goat, going back and eating some. We ate some. We actually ate venison heart, but in camp, and we ate little goat backstrap and stuff. But just going through that as a process, it was just he came out. He said that was honestly just one of the best weekends of my life. Like it just really opened
So,
my eyes.
so I think the challenge, because I agree completely, the challenge for us as a community is how do we spread that message?
Mm.
How do
Hmm.
we spread that this is hard, it will challenge you, but it makes your life better?
Yeah.
And part of that is if you're successful, you may take an animal's life.
Yeah.
Well, I think we have to acknowledge that, particularly these days.
Definitely. Definitely.
Um, but yeah, and that's that thing. Like, how do we make the sport slash lifestyle better? Well, like, what are we doing? Because I'm not sure. Not that I'm really into the organisations and stuff, but I don't really see. I don't know. Maybe I'm just not out there enough. But yeah, we need better media coverage. We need to tell that story. That story you just told me, that's fantastic.
Mm.
That's amazing. I remember the first time one of my friends in my hunting partner for many years. So he got worse target panic than me, but we went through lots of bows and we went on a lot of hunting trips. And then the first time he got control of his target panic and then he went and harvested a goat with a arc shot 22 meters with his longbow and an arrow he built himself,
Hmm.
and he literally watched the goat take like 4 steps and just roll over.
Yeah.
Absolutely life changing to him.
Mm-hmm.
He'd worked so hard to do it, and then there was a little bit of, and I know it's a fair stretch, but there's a little bit of him going, I can feed my family now if I had to.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
There was a little bit of that, and yeah, it's true. So yeah, so that's so I have a couple of things that I've sort of slightly got in the pipeline. Maybe some more workshops to try and, because one of the things is, so out of all those workshops I've done, I've only ever had one woman attend.
Wow.
Yeah.
Who? Kai.
Yeah.
Yeah, wow.
Mm. I think that's quite telling, because if you want to sell our story, it's no good selling it to the converted.
No, no, exactly right. And that's the thing about these podcasts, right? It's the converted that listen.
Yep.
Yeah.
So how do we get the Kais of the world? How do we get more? How do we get more women? How do we get more young kids? How do we get but how do we get people doing it, for want of a better word, better?
Mm.
Because better is different, has a different, really different meaning for lots of people.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, that's a bit of a challenge. I'm sort of in the early stages of maybe putting a TAC style event together.
Okay.
So yeah, me and a couple of mates had talked about it, and it's no good for me with longbow wooden arrows, but I'll tell you what, I'm still going to shoot it.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so
At
some
one
of
of the
those
snowfields
things.
or something.
Oh well, so I mean that's been suggested, but I don't want to limit it to that.
Mm.
Do you know what I mean? I go, because one of the things is that makes it very hard to get to for lots of people.
Definitely. Yeah.
And then it's a very expensive weekend. Times are tough. So I think first time out in my head, I don't know. We're in planning stages of in planning stages of planning it. You know,
Mm-hmm.
but somehow make it pretty accessible for people.
Yeah.
Uh, and we can put on some good food. Some local food. Get some people cooking some game really nicely. Those things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, so that's in there somewhere.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's been a few people kind of talk to me about that in general, just a concept like that of what they are doing in America and trying to bring it to here. Something one of the farmers said to me the other day was like, it's unfortunate that our deer or just our wild game in general, there's not a value system on them. And that's what makes them, because there's no value to them in regards to the rest of the population here in Australia
Yeah.
and to the government, there's nothing to stand for in that sense. They just get thrown to the side as well. They're just a pest. They're just ruining what we have. Versus for so many of us, we've put a value system on them.
Yeah. So and I know been some studies done on fellow. I can't remember the word. So my dad was really into these studies because my dad was quite up there in the deer stalkers years and years ago.
Yep.
So I've probably got all these lying around, these studies somewhere. Um, but again, to your point, none of this matters if our perception
Mm.
to the non-hunting public is Bambi killing, bloodthirsty. Why would you shoot it with a bow and arrow?
Yep.
And there are lots of the challenges that we've got, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And I
Yeah.
don't think they're insurmountable, but I think we need to, as a community, we need to acknowledge them and like get into it. Like
Mm.
we need to vocalize, we need to celebrate what a great lifestyle it is, not be
Yeah.
ashamed of it.
Yeah.
In fact, who was it? I reckon it was Jack Spinks. He had a bit of a go at me. He goes, because you never put game animals up on your Instagram that that I've shot. And I was like, well, that's quite true. If it's good for the goose, it's good for the gander. So, um, yeah,
I hit it for years from the community that I'm part of at the gym. Like I go to the gym every single day. It's the coach at this gym that I go to. And
yeah,
there was a conversation once from my friends at the gym about this dude who was talking about hunting, and they were like,
Yeah,
"Oh fuck, if I ever see him again, I'll hit him or something." Like it was an offhand comment, and
absolutely.
but it strewed me from talking about it at all. I was like, you know what, I can't talk about this. Like I'll be shunned from this little community that I'm a part of. Now I talk to them about it all the time. I bring them
Yep,
meat, and
yep,
yeah, it's like it's really it has opened a lot of their eyes.
yeah. Um, and it's good. Congratulations, because not many people do it. Like, and it's a hard bridge to cross sometimes.
I was
To
running the
sort of,
podcast in the background. Like I had the podcast going and I wouldn't talk about it to them.
yeah, it's not sort of like something. So I'm sitting like with people in the stock exchange, and I don't sort of want to turn around and go, "Here's the deer I killed on the weekend with a longbow."
Yeah, yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Because people are like, because lots of people go, "Where did you kill that? There's no deer in Australia," and then they go, "How are you allowed to kill stuff with a longbow?"
Yeah. Yeah. You know, I
Yeah,
actually do the opposite. I talk because I got a lot of like masterminds, business meetups and stuff like that. And
yeah,
I talk about it all the time. I'm like, yeah, I'm into bow hunting. That's what I go and do on my weekends. And I've got a podcast and stuff. It's actually a very interesting talking point.
yeah.
Get
Okay,
people
yeah,
very interested, very, very interested in it.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, fair call. I mean, everyone at work knows I do it, but
Mhm.
it's, um, yeah,
I'm coming up on 3 years of not buying meat really at all. Like pretty much, I'd say
really.
95% of our meats come from my hunting. So that's also
Oh,
another really good talking point, which
it's
you can kind
amazing.
of, yeah, where you just like, oh yeah, there's like it's just a string of conversations as to why I
And
keep doing it and
the
what I
farmers
do it for.
don't mind just you shooting all those sheep.
But they're just
No,
so tame. They
yeah,
come up to you, you know.
no, that's amazing.
Yeah, and I mean we love it, and my wife loves it because I cook. So she's like, "Well, if you're going to keep cooking, you may as well." I'm like, "Well, if I can keep hunting, I may as well."
Okay,
Yeah.
and your wife doesn't hunt.
No, not yet. She does. She really likes the concept of spearfishing. She is interested in bow hunting.
Yeah.
Eventually, but we've got two young kids, 4 and 2. So
Oh, okay. Yeah.
while they're in the nest still, it's a bit hard.
Yeah, absolutely. So when you go spearfishing,
Mm.
like, are you taking a boat out or are you just going off the beach?
I've done both. I don't have a boat myself, so it's just
Yeah.
based on invites that I get. But
Yeah.
yeah, you can do shore
For
dives.
anyone listening, right? For
You
anyone
can
listening, that
you
if you
can
have
do
a boat, just
I mean, there definitely has been a few invites, so thank you for those who have taken me. But yeah, the shore diving or the boat is either or, just depending on your locations and where you can actually go. Some places like your inlets and stuff, some are marked
yeah. Okay.
as green spaces and whatever you can't go in.
Whereabouts in Queensland are you?
I'm in Brisbane, in the Big Smoke,
Whereabouts in Brisbane do you live?
out at the bay, at Manly Bay.
Yeah. Okay. I lived in Brisbane for years. I lived in Cooperoo for a long time.
Yeah, okay. I pretty much spent most of my time in Morningside, so right around the corner.
Yeah. Okay. And I worked in because I used to work in emergency response welfare.
Okay.
So yeah, so I used to work in Woodridge a lot.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah, so that was fun.
Emergency response, like what were you mainly doing?
Oh, welfare.
Yeah, okay.
So turning up to people when they're having a bad day,
Yeah, very bad
DV,
day.
gang
Hmm.
violence, suicides. Yeah, so I did that for quite a while.
Yeah, wow.
Um, yeah, and then that's how
How's
I got
that? How's that change your perspective of life?
uh, a lot.
I can imagine.
You see how yeah, I mean, I'm quite open about it. It's certainly I left that because I had to.
Hmm.
Um, not that I really realised it, but work sort of said, "Hey, you need a break
Yeah.
because you you see humanity at its absolute worst
Mm,
daily, and it's great. It's like being in the A team, but then you don't realise that the cumulative effect of that.
definitely. Yeah.
So I still have trouble sleeping. I still get sort of night terrors, for want of a better word.
Yeah. Wow.
Um, but it certainly makes you, and I've always openly talked about that because
Mm,
I'm highly functioning and stuff. But yeah, it certainly affects you, and that life is short.
mm,
Tomorrow is promised to literally no one. So,
definitely.
um, you know, if you can, don't wait.
Mm,
And it doesn't apply to people have all sorts of obligations, but if you can find a reason to do it,
do it.
do it. Yeah, very much so.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that life is life is hard, and probably my salvation, for want of a better word, during a lot of that time was actually going bush.
And I can imagine.
Yeah, and I'm not suggesting solitude, but there's a method in nature that makes sense.
You know,
without
and it works quickly too.
Yeah, without sounding like a wanker, but but there's a clarity and so you'd come off a long, sometimes those shifts that end up being 18 hours of some pretty horrid stuff and body parts and all sorts of stuff on there. Yeah, going bush was perfect. It worked.
I think the element of solitude, though, is also important. Like you said, not for solitude only, but I think that part of it is a part that a lot of people have troubles dealing with, in the sense like they can't be by themselves for very long.
No, and I struggle with that concept. That's my favorite, and I love hunting with people.
Yeah, definitely.
But being on my own out in the bush, it's good for what ails you.
It really is. I love it. I absolutely love it.
Yeah, absolutely. I try and do it at least once a week, even if it's just with some going to shoot some arrows and go and shoot some judo points or something. Absolutely. Yeah. But, a good 3 to 4 days on your own in the bush does absolutely wonders for your sense of self.
Does. Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
Massively. Yeah.
I just wish I'd come home with, I mean, you were showing off before, but I just wish I'd come home with more stuff in my chili bin. You know what I mean?
I think you said you got a few bows, right? If you just pick up the one with the wheels, you might come back with some stuff.
It's very rude.
I'm talking from experience.
I didn't know you were going to turn into that guy, but it's so true. It's so true. The amount of times I still sit there, and people go, "Oh, you shouldn't. You're doing it for the wrong reasons." But the amount of times I'm sitting there on a game trail or something, going, "Find a fucking compound right now."
It's funny because that's what I used to say about when I had my compound. Oh, if I had a fucking gun right now, like it was the same conversation. I think, I mean, that's why I also love the fact of the trad, because it is so much harder. Look at that.
This is covered in dust. Right, I tuned it, and then I wouldn't have shot it in 4 years, I reckon.
Yeah.
Occasionally I'll take it down the club and I'll shoot a bunch at 50.
Yeah.
But nothing beats this. This is just one of them. I mean, come on.
Yeah, look at that.
Look at it. And I love you. The wood, not you.
Yeah. No.
Yeah.
I took it literally.
Yeah, I know. We'll get there. a couple of drinks, a campfire.
Exactly.
So yeah. But we should organise a trad hunt.
Definitely. Yeah. We should well, where are you? You are high country or not quite that far?
I'm smack bang in the middle of the most leftist inner city suburb in Melbourne. Yeah. And then most of the time, sort of between here and there, just down the coast. But let's do it.
We should. We will. We definitely talk about that off air and make it happen.
Yeah.
Make it a plan for it, and then
Yeah. I reckon that's a good. Yeah.
I think that's what I need to actually commit to, is going out hunting without my wheels with me. Just going with the trad bow.
Yeah. Just don't put the wheels in the car.
Exactly. Yeah.
And then you're in for a penny, in for a pound, and yeah.
Definitely.
And, just the idea of letting it happen. Do you know what I mean? and then you don't get too attached to the result, sort of. Because
Exactly.
we're compound. Like, I remember years ago, I took compound over to New Zealand in 2012. Yeah, and I was getting quite like frustrated. I was like, well, I thought the deer would be bigger. I was like, I just shot a really nice deer.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, that's not going to work for me. Mind you, at the rate I'm going, because the only thing because I haven't shot a buff,
Mm.
and I don't think I'll ever pull longbow poundage enough for a buff.
Mm-hmm.
So that would still be a wheels thing,
Yeah.
you know. What about have you hunted buff?
No bovine yet at all.
Okay.
Yeah. So tell
Oh,
me, regarding, I guess, going back on some of the people you've really surrounded yourself with your Tom Clums,
yep,
your Rod, and
yep,
Joel Turner,
yep,
they've all got their different methodologies, right? But
yep.
they're all essentially preaching the same thing of getting a better end result. What have kind of been like the pinches of salt that you've taken from each of them that has really helped you to overcome that target panic essentially that you have had over the years?
So, um, the thing I got from Tom, aside from, and he'd probably say the same, a lifelong friendship.
Mm-hmm.
If there's one nugget in there, because there's lots of technical stuff, when in doubt, keep pulling.
Mm, I like that.
And yeah, once the basic mechanics you'll get pretty quick. Once you get back into that thing and you start, I don't know what I'm doing. If you get into that, just keep pulling and the shot will go off. It may not be perfect, but it'll be better than what was happening before you were saying, you know, like when in doubt, keep pulling.
Yeah.
Um, I find that really, really powerful.
I feel like that's just a good little mantra to have in the back of your head as well. When in doubt, keep pulling. When in doubt, keep pulling. Because
And
that's just going to make you.
yeah, when it's all going to shit,
Yep.
keep pulling.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, just because the other stuff will go away and you'll. um, Rod would just say, "Y'all got to commit," and then we go, "What?" And go, "Y'all got to commit." Well, so one of the things he had was, and then Tom and Joel will talk about the same things slightly differently,
Yeah.
but it was so you get into position and then decide that you're going to shoot,
Mm.
which is something I struggle with. Is getting in there and go, okay, I'm now going to shoot. See what I mean? Rather than, yeah, I'm not going to and letting down.
Yeah.
Um, and then all of Joel's stuff. Joel's next level.
Mm.
Like he's a strange cat, but he's a generational thinker, I think.
Yeah. Yeah.
But he goes on about this thing that thoughts aren't thinking. Um, he got that from me, by the way. Just putting it out there. No, but so and I said that to him quite flippantly.
What did you mean by it when you said it to him?
I was just explaining the idea that when you're having thoughts, you're not actually thinking. It's not constructive. You're not telling yourself to do anything.
Mm.
You're just having thoughts. It's like the idea that, so if me and you live next door to each other, people say, oh, your language frames the world.
Mm.
So we live next door to each other. All right. Oh no, okay, we go hunting. And we wake up in the morning and I love hunting in the rain and you hate hunting in the rain. And it's the idea that so we wake up and you look out the tent. And I love hunting in the rain, so today's going to be awesome. And you look at the tent and go, oh, today's going to be shit. So we've just experienced exactly the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's just rain. And I'm all happy and you're all sad, but it's just rain. It's exactly the same thing. but the thoughts we're having have completely framed your day.
Yeah.
So that's how I sort of came at it. And then when I said it to Joel, I distinctly remember when I said it to him, because he stopped and went, "What do you mean?" And then he started writing stuff down, and he broke it down into the shot cycle, which is, that your speech compels you to do a thing, which is draw back and aim, just get it done. Mm-hmm. Then have your here I go moment, or yes, I'm going to shoot. But that's got to be loud. That can be the only thing. If it's I hope I don't miss
You're
in the
taking
middle
away
of
the
it.
concept. Yeah.
Yeah,
Don't miss.
I hope I don't miss that, which is a really powerful statement, but doesn't actually mean anything.
No, exactly.
Do you know what I mean? But it's really powerful if you're in that moment.
It's like saying, don't think about a pink elephant. And then all of a sudden, you think about the pink elephant.
Excuse me. But yeah, but none of it means anything.
Mm.
What does mean anything is draw back and aim, get it done.
Yeah.
All right. Decide, I'm going to shoot this shot with control no matter what. And now pull, 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 pull. That's all there is to it.
Mm.
So the way he uses speech to drive thinking rather than thoughts.
Yeah.
Yeah, really, really powerful. And when I get that right, I'm dangerous.
Yeah. Okay.
But there's a discipline that I seem to be lacking somehow. If I don't think about it, I'm fine. If no one's standing around and it's a pig at 25 metres, I'm good to go. But if there's three of us standing around, I'm trying to shoot a Coke can in front of you at 6 metres, it's amazingly how quick I can go to water, unless I go back and think about all that stuff.
Yeah.
Which is the discipline of every shot, no matter what. But I'm lazy. Do you know what I mean?
I mean, humans are in general, right? Inherently.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
Well, yeah, you seek the easiest course, as it were.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I was listening to some of the stuff, like you hear George Riles. George Riles. You hear a lot of it's very, very similar.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's which is why, irrespective of your weapon of choice, a coach just for that different perspective helps. Whether it's online, but just go and find good ones.
Well, I mean, George Rice has something where I think it's fixmyarchery.com or something similar to that, where you can literally book a session with him and he'll just have a video call like what we're having now, and watch you go through the process and be like, oh no, try change this, try to do this, and tells you what to do. I think that's a really cool concept.
Because he just did a tour through Urban. He comes out every year.
It was up
but
here too.
I mean, people I know swear by him.
Yeah, well, we actually were meant to have a podcast a few weeks ago. Crazy story. Essentially, we booked it in. I rocked up for the call. He didn't rock up for the call. And then he sent me a message saying, "Man, I'm so sorry. My wife's dad just died." And so he's like, "I just had to drop everything and go." I was like, "Yeah, I can understand that." So,
wow. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But he'd be like, next time he's around, he'd be an interesting one to get on. But if I get any of the Yankees back,
Mate,
you should get them. You should get them on.
Yeah, 100%. I'm more than happy to, especially because then we're getting hopefully more ears and more eyes on it before they come, and selling out more spots for it as well. Because I think a lot of people are interested in it and they see the aftermath. They see the picture of all the dudes sitting there with their bows and they're like, what was that? What?
Yeah,
Where did I see that from?
It's a pretty good weekend.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
When we do it. And, they're all nice people. They're very different. Tom and Joel are very, very different. But yeah, no, it's good fun. But yeah, that's just one of the many things that we'll organise to make the sport better.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, and I think it's well needed, and I think that's something that I do love about this platform with the podcast, is the fact that everyone is very, very willing to give up their information.
Yeah.
And
absolutely.
Maybe that's a costly mistake, right? Maybe giving free information is too costly a price where people aren't necessarily taking it on board. But I know it's helped a lot of people. When you pay for something, you pay more attention, right? But at the same time,
yeah, skin in the game helps. But
yeah,
but if we keep people if we keep people in the sport, so that they're taking game cleanly, humanely, and
Mhm.
enjoying it, that's a really cheap price to pay.
Oh, and I can confidently say now more than ever, my inbox is full of people saying, "How do I get into it? Where do I start? What do I do? Where can I get my bow?" Like I'm getting those questions regularly, like almost daily, to be honest, which is awesome. I love it, and it is cool to see that it is growing so much.
And for $299.95 per month, you can contact. Now, it's unreal that it's unreal that it's growing, and I think Alone and those shows have kind of helped.
Oh, massively, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So I've never seen them, but
Mm.
I did get an email from someone had dobbed me in, and so I got an email from someone going, "Do you want to come and try out on Alone?"
Oh, you should have. Next one.
No one wants to see my big fatty white gut and man titties rolling around. I'd be complaining within 2 minutes.
Uh,
Yeah.
there was one guy that lasted a night on the Australian the first season.
Oh, so I heard about the Australian one, the one that was down in Tassie, and
Yeah,
then I was like, yeah, that sounds,
they got put in a pretty horrible place.
yeah, okay.
There
Yeah.
wasn't much game about. I think one person got one wallaby, one macapod. Is that what you call
Yeah,
it?
okay. And you can't bow hunt anyway. So,
Yeah, exactly.
yeah.
And yeah, it was like even the fishing was pretty dismal for them, unfortunately. The one that was in New Zealand was much better, but yeah, there wasn't much game about once again, unfortunately. No deer.
Yeah. I remember because I saw that what's his name? Cam shoots the self bows. Um,
Not
he won
sure.
it. Yeah, he won one of the alliance, and he got a deer with his. He makes a living making Osage self bows.
Okay.
Yeah, he won it, and because he got a moose or something.
Oh, I got you over in, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Yep.
yeah, in America.
Yes, yeah.
Excuse this cough. Um, yeah, but I like. There's a show on Channel Two or SBS. There's a young lass who was a journalist, and she's a chef, and now she's hunting. Have you seen that?
No, is that the farm one? Maybe?
No. So it's not quite the farm one. So no, she's just gone out and excuse me again. She's learning to fish and hunt. So she's shooting deer and you
Yeah,
know,
how cool.
yeah. So that's the next stage. We get the equivalent of that.
Yeah, I think Ross O'Mara actually mentioned that to me when we talked as well.
Yeah, okay. I was talking to Ross the other day actually.
He's a really good
Yep.
dude. I really like Ross.
Have you eaten his food?
I haven't yet. I'm so envious of everyone that has. It'll
So
happen one day.
when Gordo had his
Yeah, that's what I want to get to, the Northeast experience.
yeah. So Ross did some cooking and then so I paid my little bit extra to go and eat Ross's cooking just because I was curious. And I was like, it's a grill on a big fire. How good can it be? Oh my God. It was it was amazing. And
Yeah.
he is the nicest, sweetest man. Because I was standing there and then asking him questions.
Yeah.
How'd you this? Why are you doing this? Why are you doing this? And yeah, he's absolutely lovely. Really nice guy. I actually sent him a recurve the other
How
day.
good. Yes.
Yeah,
That's
because he's
exciting.
keen.
Yeah.
And I said, all right, I'm sending you one to practice on. So
He actually told the story about how his bowstring snaps. And that kind of leads me to the question about your bow. There's a picture of you on your Instagram where your bow is the perfect timing of your bow breaking.
that one.
Yeah,
So
tell us about that.
that was literally so that was a new so I was the dealer for Howard Hill and Jim Belcher and stuff. So a lot of
Hmm.
ASL hill style bows. And that's what I shot for years. And so this guy started making them and he said, "Can I send you one?" I went, "Yeah, no worries." I said, I'll take some photos and stuff and I'll do some hunting with it. And then I said to Jason, who was with me, I said, "I'll do a big full draw pick." He goes, "Yeah, no worries." And so I took that full draw pick and before I knew it, the bottom limb smacked me in the nuts, the top limb smacked me on the head.
Oh God.
It's amazing how many people think that photo's fake.
Yeah.
No, I'll put it up occasionally,
Yeah.
and people go, "Oh, that's AI and stuff." And I was like, "No, no." But yeah, it was just one of those. Happened to be one of those moments.
That's crazy.
Yeah, yeah. And he made, like I told him, and he made me a new one, and then so I didn't tell him which company it
Did you
was.
do
But
full draw again, or were you a bit scared?
oh no, I did full draw, but I think I put a box and a helmet on. Um, yeah. So that was the second arrow out of it. He
That's
just
all right.
wasn't used to making takedowns. That's all.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, because ideally I try and get everything made as a takedown just to show. Because shipping one piece is so expensive now.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know. Yeah. Oh, yeah, that photo. Yeah, that
Well,
was
mate,
that was super famous when it first came out.
that photo.
Yeah, that was like that's probably one of the first things I put on the interwebs.
Yeah, okay. There you go.
You know, because I only got a smartphone in like 2018, I think.
Yeah, well,
Yeah, I'm old school.
it's a simple life. It's a good way.
Yeah, and I said, look, it's like I bought a new car. I've never had a new car before.
Hmm.
I thought heated seats were ridiculous, and then I got a car with heated seats, and now I just
Especially down in Melbourne. Yeah, God.
yeah, I drive past people on the freeway who don't have heated seats, and I'll be honest, I just spit at them. Do you know what I mean? I just yeah. No, so it's got heated seats and chilled seats. So yeah, the iPhone was a bit like that. I was like, you don't need all that stuff, and then I was like, oh my god, I can look at
Yeah,
YouTube.
well, yeah,
Do you know
yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely. I have a friend who runs a business, and he decided that he was going to go back to a flip phone, whatever it
yeah,
was, just so he could go back to bare basic lives. And his whole team was like, "This is fucked. We can't reach you anymore. Like nothing works. You're
yeah,
not on all the channels where we communicate. Like because
yep,
no one uses just Messenger or just email or anything anymore. It's all like Slack and all your different channels like that."
yep,
And so he ended up having to get it back again. He's like, I loved it for the month I was off of it, but then yeah, the team started to
yeah.
hate me for it.
I've actually got I've got a program on mine, so mine turns off.
Mm,
So work can ring me
yeah.
directly, and I can see my work outlook. I
Hmm.
can see my work teams, but everything else actually shuts off as of 9 o'clock.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, so I don't see, and then, but I'll still go. Oh, I got to go and check that someone responded, and then I'll somehow log back in.
Yeah, you put work on. You should be turning work off and leaving the fun stuff on.
Yeah, that's a couple of years away, I think. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, a couple
Well,
of years.
we wouldn't be much of a bow hunting podcast. If we didn't ask you some stories about some of your favorite hunts. Maybe some of the recent ones from your NT trip, or just any that stand out in your mind in general. And
Yep.
I mean, I would love as much detail as you can about your
I've,
thought process
yep.
around positioning and everything that you do when you're
I've got a
stalking.
cut. Yep. Sorry, just give me 2 secs. I'm just gonna. So my probably my favourite was a fellow buck I shot in New Zealand, and it wasn't the biggest buck in the world, but to me, he's amazing. Like
Hmm.
I love this animal. And it's one of those things that I'd seen him a couple of days, and being from Victoria, excuse me, I'm just plugging my phone in. Being from Victoria, I didn't actually know much about fellow. I was sort of learning on the run, so to speak,
Yeah.
in New Zealand. So anyway, so I watched this fellow for a couple of days, and then I saw uh, I saw what I thought was the same deer, and then so I sort of made up a bit of a plan the day before. And it was one of those situations where I really felt like Jim Doherty, in that I was sitting on a mountainside and I was using glass to work out where he was and work out a plan of attack. Whereas in Samba country, I tend to just walk. Do you know what I
Hmm.
mean? I find a game trail and I'll walk. So freezing cold, and I ended up down in this big gully system, and I had to walk up probably. It felt like kilometres, but it was probably 250 metres of Matagari, which is
Mm.
for the listeners out there who don't know, the reason New Zealand has no poisonous spiders or snakes is because the plant life's killed them all with all the spikes. Um, so I just had to walk 250 basically up this face of this.
Just might want to fact check that.
Yeah. Um, Yeah, I had this 2 hour crawl on my hands and knees
Oh
through
God.
this most god awful scrub, and I thought I'd got it wrong where I was heading up to where I'd seen him bed. I thought I've got my angle wrong, and I'm going to come out in the wrong spot. It was one of those self doubts. So this isn't that long ago. This is 2015, I think.
Hmm.
It was one of those times when you just have to make a call. I only had 2 days left. Like it wasn't going to happen the day after. So I put my money where my mouth is. I went, no, I'm going exactly where I said I'd going to get, where I said I think he is. And I went up there and I got a little bit sort of lazy, and then I sort of like standed up and started walking a little bit faster. And I was getting almost trying to prove a point to myself, but I was getting a little bit more dejected as I got up the hill. And then just up in front of me, I saw this tiny little bit of white move, and it was an antler. And so I'm on, and I was like, this is fantastic. And I had no idea how close I got to him. I was only 12 meters from him.
Oh God.
But he's on a ledge. And what I hadn't been able to see when I was way, way off on the other hillside glassing him was I was exactly where I wanted to be, but I didn't realize that I wouldn't be able to actually see him.
Mm.
So I came up with a plan, which was draw an arrow, put it on a string, lean back as far as I can, and then give him a little bit of a croak to get him to stand up.
Hmm.
Ideally, not fall backwards down through hundreds of meters of Matty,
Yeah.
and also he just might take off, and I may never actually see him. Excuse me. Um, but this was kind of like what I'd seen guys in the magazines write about. And then
Hmm.
anyway, so I gave him a little ooh, up he stood. I was leaning back, and he was so close when he stood up, and he was so big in my vision, even though he's a fellow, but to me he was
Yeah.
huge.
Yeah.
And yeah, I put it straight in the boiler room, straight out the other side, and I heard him take off. I'll give him a minute. I'll give him a minute. And my dad had drilled into me, no point chasing him. You just push him. So I was like, I'll give him a minute. But as I'm saying that, I'm getting closer and closer up because I'm just going to stick my head over him. And yeah, so I couldn't see him. I couldn't hear anything. But sort of on my tippy toes over this ledge where he'd been bedded, I thought I could see blood. So I had to sort of crawl around a bit and climb up on this ledge. And then yeah, he wasn't 40 meters away.
How
And
good.
he died on a dead run. But it was just one of those, I always remember it because um, I took 2 days just taking my time finding one I'd seen in sort of the same area.
Hmm.
And I was like, I think that's stalkable. And I sort of had a plan. And then I thought my plan sucked halfway through it. And then I said, nah, stick to your plan.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it all worked. And it was luck. Do you know what I mean? The wind was good. The wind stayed good. It
Hmm.
was lucky. But it was a pretty good plan, and it worked off. And it's sort of the first time I've really haven't just sort of stumbled across them, like found sign and go, cool, I'm
Yeah.
just going to walk along till he was a genuine spot stalk on a bedded buck. And yeah, it just came off. And yeah,
That's incredible. I think.
still my favourite deer. And he's not huge by any stretch of the imagination to
Mhm.
lots of people. But to me, he's got sort of two good paddles on each side. He's a longbow buck. I was super happy.
Yeah, definitely. Also
Mm.
very relatable, that whole story, right? The
Yep.
second guessing yourself,
Oh yeah. It's
trying to prove yourself wrong and just being reckless at the end
yep.
like that. It's such a thing that I think most bow hunters have gone through. I've definitely done it.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Speed
yeah.
up at the end rather than slowing down more.
Oh, because yeah, sort of. Well, I've stuffed it anyway. So
Yeah,
and
yeah.
yeah. Then I was like, oh. Um, and then there was one. So this isn't actually this is slightly different. So I was actually looking for fellow in the wombat forest. which is a big forest just next to the city down here. It's huge, and there's sporadic deer in there.
Mm-hmm.
And then one day I found pig tracks. I was like, okay. So I looked around, I couldn't see anything. Then the next week, and I went and looked in a very similar area, and I found pig tracks. Over a couple of weeks, I'd find more and more tracks. Not seeing anything. A couple of weeks later, I heard piglets. Suckers carrying on.
Yeah.
Couldn't say anything. And then, so I wasn't saying anything to anyone, but I was seeing big boar tracks. And I mean like a big boar. So a couple of weeks later, it was really cold. There was a bit of snow around. I was driving in really early. And as I was driving in, they're quite well maintained roads, but there's no one there. It's all state forest, you can hunt it. But some guys had obviously set up a camp because they had a big 3D, the really big black 3D ball target.
Yeah.
Well, that was sitting in the middle of the road. That's what I was thinking because it's early, I've just woken up. And then, of course, it turned around and looked at me.
Yeah, wow.
It just turned around and I was like, fuck, there he is. So it sort of validated all these days that I went and spent down there. So I drove up the top of the hill and sort of he dropped down into this valley, and I was 99% sure that he just walked down in there. And it's all bracken and just burnt out logs. So as the sun got a bit brighter, so all you can see is black logs and green bracken. So I just sat there and glassed and glassed and glassed and going, I reckon he's sitting in there. Then I thought I saw him, so I snuck in. I couldn't tell whether I was staring at his ass. And then I crept in a little bit more, and I started getting really nervous. And then I saw his tail move.
Oh.
So I was about 35 off him. Again, if I'd had the compound. So I got into about 15.
Yeah, wow.
And he was of considerable size.
Uh-huh.
I sort of had to lean out to try and get an angle for a shot because I was literally walking in behind him. And this had taken me like 2 hours. But by this stage, I'd seen his head come up and I'd seen his ears and stuff. I couldn't quite work out the size of him. And then a little bit of breeze hit the back of my neck. Up he stood. He was a monster. Off he ran. No shot. But yeah, I had fun.
Yeah.
I spent the next 4 months looking for him, and that's the one my mate shot.
Oh, no. Did he ever weigh it?
Oh, I don't know, actually. He sent me a photo of it. I'll send you the photo.
Yeah. That'd be good.
The other thing I've shot lots of pigs. I've never shot a really, really big hooky boar, ever. I've shot. So that was part of my going up the Cape. But this guy had tusks on him. I was like, this is perfect. He's a Victorian mountain boar, which are rare as hen's teeth, and I'm about to shoot him with a longbow. But it just didn't happen. But it was great.
Yeah, it was definitely.
And then a couple of my mates, they go in there with dogs. And gee, they take some big pigs out.
Actually, I wanted to ask, have you ever hunted with dogs? Because I saw that you had did you have a German longhead pointer or wirehead pointer at one point?
No. So that's a mate's dog. No.
Okay.
So I've gone out with crews a couple of times. It's just not my thing.
Yeah, and that's why I had thought that my assumption was that you were hunting with a dog doing longbow, not actually hound hunting, essentially.
Yeah, so it's just not my thing. So a couple of mates have got dogs working really, really well for longbow, which is like they're at foot, and that's working really well for them.
Essentially just pointers.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's just not my thing. Yeah. And my dogs are the worst trained dogs in the world. So it's just not my thing. And dogs on pigs is I've been out with more for property owners and stuff. But yeah, that's just not my thing.
No, neither.
I try and be quiet. Yeah, that's the solitude and the quietness is part of the attraction for me.
Yeah.
I don't begrudge other people, and I get it. It's a really effective way to get them.
Mm.
You know.
I can understand the adrenaline rush you'd get from it too.
Yeah, I'd like my dogs too much.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like the idea of something having a chew on my dogs. Yeah,
Mm.
yeah.
Yeah, it's not nice.
I'd struggle with that, I think. But I'm sure people look at what I do and go, "Well, just buy a gun." You know. Yeah. Mm.
It's all right. We don't have to justify it to anyone, right?
Nah, absolutely. Yeah.
Oh, that's good, man. Well, Ben, thank you very much for sharing your time, man. I really, really do
No,
appreciate it.
that's all
I,
right.
th I,
Anytime.
I think it's great how much you are helping with bringing people out and helping to share the knowledge, helping to get more people into the longbow and the trad life, as much as you might hate the statement. But it is a very powerful thing. And like I said before, I think bow hunting in general is just so powerful, what it does offer us.
Absolutely.
And so I think, yeah, the more we can do of it, the better it is. And there's so many podcasts and stuff popping up now, and I'm all for it. I'm like, the more the merrier, because really we are starting to spread the word, and it might not be as fast as what we want it to be, but it is happening.
No, and my hat goes off to you because you're always showing it in a positive light, and yeah, no, just happy to be part of it.
Yeah, thanks, mate.
Been
Appreciate it.
great, too easy.
Thanks,
Cool.
man.
All right, mate. Speak to you after.